The fluorescent lights hummed above room 437 like a swarm of tired insects. Dr. Maya Thompson stepped through the doorway, clipboard pressed against her royal blue scrubs, the word director embossed in gold on her badge. She'd made this walk 10,000 times in 20 years, excuse me. The voice came sharp and cold. To you, yes you, Maya looked up. A man in his 40s stood beside the hospital bed, arms crossed, designer watch catching the light. His salt and pepper hair was perfectly styled. His expression held the particular impatience of someone accustomed to being obeyed. My father's room is a disgrace, he said, pointing at a small puddle near the bathroom door. Clean that up now. The air pressure changed. Two nurses at the medication cart froze mid-motion. Maya's hand tightened around the clipboard until her knuckles paled. Sir, I'm Dr. Thompson, the director of... I don't care what your excuse is. Richard Hartwell stepped closer, voice rising. That's a biohazard. To your job. Maya's mother's nurse pin, a tiny silver caduceus from 1985, pressed against her chest beneath the scrubs. She could feel its weight. She could feel everything. The stares, the silence, the familiar sting of being reduced to assumptions. In the bed, Richard's father watched through half-closed eyes, saying nothing. Mr. Hartwell, Maya began again, her voice steady despite the heat crawling up her neck. I'm here to review your father's treatment plan. I'm the director of nursing for this. Then direct someone else to clean this mess. Richard pulled out his phone. Or I'll be directing a complaint to administration about sanitation standards and insubordinate staff. The youngest nurse, Emma, moved toward Maya. Her eyes asked permission to intervene. Maya shook her head once, barely perceptible. 20 years of excellence. 10 as director. And still, in this moment, she was invisible. 6 hours earlier, Maya's alarm had chimed at 5 a.m. She'd risen in the dark, her movements practiced and efficient. Coffee brewing, scrubs laid out the night before. Royal blue, always royal blue, the color that made her feel capable and calm. She'd stood at her bathroom mirror, pinning her mother's caduceus to her chest. The silver was tarnished now, worn smooth by decades of hands. Evelyn Thompson had worn it through 40 years of nursing, through prejudice and progress, through nights when she'd come home crying, and mornings when she'd returned with her head high. Excellence speaks louder than ignorance, baby girl, her mother used to say. You just keep being excellent. Maya had built her career on that principle. She'd graduated top of her nursing class, earned her doctorate by 30, became the youngest director of nursing in Riverside Memorial's 100-year history. She knew every staff member's name, every patient's story, every protocol by heart. Her office walls held commendations, thank you letters from families, photos of her mentees who'd gone on to leadership positions. But lately the frames felt heavier. The newest addition, a glossy certificate for the hospital's commitment to diversity, seemed to mock her from across the room. This morning, she'd texted her daughter before leaving. Jasmine was finishing her pre-med requirements, waiting for acceptance letters. Maya had sent a photo of the sunrise, another day to make a difference. Jasmine had replied with a heart emoji and, make them remember your name. Mum? The hospital parking lot had been nearly empty at 6:30 a.m. Maya had walked through the automatic doors, nodding to security, stopping to ask the overnight janitor about his grandson's recovery. She'd reviewed the weekend reports, flagged 3 potential medication conflicts, and approved the new training schedule for residents. By 8 a.m., she was making rounds on the 4th floor, her favorite part of the day. She'd checked on Mrs. Chen, who was finally eating solid foods. She'd calmed a nervous first-time father in the maternity ward. She'd laughed with the orthopedic staff about Dr. Patel's terrible karaoke performance at the fundraiser. Normal, productive, exactly as it should be. Then she'd reached room 437. I'm not asking again, Richard. Hartwell's voice carried into the hallway. Other doors began to crack open, faces peering out. Clean it up or get someone who will. Maya set her clipboard on the counter with deliberate care. Mr. Hartwell, I understand you're concerned about your father's care. I'm here specifically to review his treatment protocol. If you'd like to discuss the cleaning schedule, I can have our facilities manager. Richard laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. You people always have an excuse, don't you? The words hung in the air like smoke. You people, Emma, the young nurse, went rigid. The other nurse, Marcus, cleared his throat and stepped forward. Dr. Thompson is the director of nursing. She's not Marcus. Maya's voice was quiet but firm. It's fine. It wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. Richard turned to his father. Dad, can you believe this? I ask for basic hygiene and get attitude. He swung back to Maya. What's your name? I want it for my report. Maya met his eyes. In them, she saw the same dismissiveness she'd encountered in medical school, at conferences, in elevators where people assumed she was lost. She saw 30 years of her mother's battles reflected back. Dr. Maya Thompson. She pronounced each word carefully. Director of Nursing. I've worked at Riverside Memorial for 20 years. Now, if you'll allow me to review your father's chart... Oh, I see. Richard's smile was cruel. Your management. That explains why you're too important to clean up a simple spill. You know what? Forget it. I'll do it myself. He grabbed paper towels from the dispenser, making a show of bending down. When my father was on the hospital board, staff actually took pride in their work. The patient, William Hartwell, according to the chart, shifted in his bed. His eyes opened fully for the first time, focusing on Maya. Something flickered across his face. Recognition. Discomfort. He opened his mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. Richard threw the soiled towels in the trash. Now you can leave. I've requested a different nurse. Someone professional. Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. 3 other patients needed her. A resident had questions about a complex case. The morning briefing was in 15 minutes. She had 1,000 reasons to walk away, to let this man believe whatever he wanted to believe. But she thought of Jasmine, waiting for acceptance letters. She thought of every young nurse of color watching this moment, learning what was acceptable, what was tolerable, what was the price of peace. I'll note your concerns in the file, Maya said. Her voice didn't shake. But I'm the director of nursing for this floor, Mr. Hartwell. I don't get reassigned because of discomfort. I reassign others based on medical need. Your father's care is my responsibility. Richard's face flushed red. He pulled out his phone again. We'll see about that. Maya walked into the hallway. Her legs felt distant, disconnected. Behind her, Richard's voice rose again, now talking to someone on his phone. The words unprofessional and hostile drifted through the door. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder now, or maybe it was just the ringing in her ears. She pressed her back against the cool wall, feeling the mother's pin dig into her chest. Her breathing came shallow, controlled. She'd learned long ago not to let them see the crack. Emma appeared beside her. Dr. Thompson, I can file a witness report. That was completely... Not now, Emma. Maya's voice came out softer than intended. Thank you. But not now. The young nurse hesitated, then nodded and walked away. Maya closed her eyes. 20 years, 10 as director. And in 30 seconds, she'd become invisible again, reduced to the color of her skin, the assumptions embedded so deep they felt like instinct to people like Richard Hartwell. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jasmine. Just submitted my last application. Johns Hopkins next? Maya stared at the message, her daughter's hope bright and unguarded. Jasmine didn't know yet what it meant to be excellent, and still not enough. To have your credentials dismissed before you could speak them. To wonder if the fight was worth inheriting. Should she tell her? Should she warn her that medical school would be full of Richard Hartwells, patients who'd question her competence, colleagues who'd mistake her for support staff? Or should she let Jasmine discover it herself, the way Maya had, one humiliation at a time? Her mother's voice echoed, Excellence speaks louder than ignorance, baby girl. But what if it doesn't? Maya thought. What if excellence just speaks into a void, while ignorance shouts over it? She touched the silver pin through her scrubs. The metal was warm from her body heat. Evelyn Thompson had worn this through worse. Through the 60s and 70s, when she wasn't allowed to use the same bathroom as white nurses, when her diagnoses were second-guessed by default, when "you people" was the kindest phrase she'd hear all day, and still her mother had shown up. Still she'd saved lives. Still she'd taught Maya that giving up meant letting them win. Maya opened her eyes. The hallway stretched ahead, fluorescent and sterile and unchanged. Somewhere down that hall other patients needed her. Other families trusted her. Other nurses looked to her for guidance. She pushed off the wall and started walking. The hospital's third-floor break room was empty when Maya arrived. She poured coffee she didn't want, watching the dark liquid swirl in the white ceramic mug. Her hands were steady now. They'd always been steady. Evelyn Thompson had taught her that. Maya was 7 when she first understood what her mother did for a living. Not just the medical part, but the survival part. They'd been at a grocery store. A white woman had snapped her fingers at Evelyn, demanding she reach something from a high shelf. Her mother had smiled, retrieved the item and said, "You're welcome, ma'am." Then they'd finished shopping in silence. In the car, Maya had asked why her mother helped someone so rude. Baby girl. That woman saw my skin before she saw me. Evelyn had adjusted the rearview mirror, meeting Maya's eyes. But I saw a person who needed help. That's the difference between us and them. We don't get to choose when to be excellent. We have to be excellent every single time, or they use it against all of us. That's not fair, 7-year-old Maya had said. No. Her mother's voice had been soft. It's not. But fair and real are different things. You can fight unfair by being so good they can't ignore you. That's the fight I chose. Maya had chosen it too. She'd aced every test, volunteered for every extra shift, memorized every protocol until they became instinct. She'd smiled through microaggressions and code-switched through interviews and worked twice as hard for half the recognition. And it had worked, mostly. She'd risen through the ranks faster than expected. Her patient satisfaction scores were the highest in the hospital. Her staff respected her. The hospital administration cited her as a model of their commitment to diversity, but lately the weight felt heavier. The newest initiative, a glossy diversity program announced with great fanfare, felt performative. There were listening sessions but no policy changes. There were diversity panels but no consequences for discrimination. There were promises but no power. Last month, a patient had refused care from Dr. Patel, demanding an American doctor. Administration had quietly reassigned him rather than confront the patient. When Maya had objected in the leadership meeting, she'd been told to pick her battles and consider the optics. The optics, her mother's generation had fought for her to have a seat at the table. But what good was a seat if her voice was decorative? Maya's phone buzzed again. This time it was administration. "Please come to HR, there's been a complaint." She set down the untouched coffee and headed for the elevator. The HR office smelled like artificial lavender and old carpet. Susan Chen, the Director of Human Resources, sat behind her desk with the expression of someone about to defuse a bomb. "Maya, thank you for coming so quickly." Susan gestured to a chair. "I've received a complaint from Richard Hartwell regarding an incident in room 437. "I'm aware," Maya said, sitting. "His father is William Hartwell. Former board member, correct?" Susan's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "Yes, which makes this sensitive. Richard claims you were confrontational and refused to address a sanitation concern. He mistook me for cleaning staff and ordered me to mop the floor." Maya kept her voice level. "When I attempted to explain my role, he escalated. I understand this was uncomfortable." Susan leaned forward, her tone carefully empathetic. "But given Mr. Hartwell's position and his father's history with the hospital, I'm asking if you'd be willing to step back from this case. Let someone else handle the family, just to smooth things over." There it was, the familiar trade. Swallow the indignity for the sake of institutional peace. Maya had heard it before. After the incident with the patient who'd called her a slur. After the doctor, who'd consistently assigned her the most difficult, thankless cases. After the fundraiser where a donor had asked if she was serving drinks. Each time, she'd been asked to be the bigger person. To understand that change takes time. To consider the larger mission of the hospital. Each time she'd agreed. I'll need to review his father's chart first, Maya said. Then I'll decide, Susan blinked. Maya, the patient's welfare comes first. That's protocol, Maya stood. I'll have an answer for you within the hour. She left before Susan could object. In the hallway, she pulled out her tablet and accessed William Hartwell's electronic medical record. Current diagnosis, pneumonia. Prescribed treatment, standard antibiotic protocol with a bronchodilator. Something nagged at her. She scrolled through the admission notes, the recent lab work, the medication orders. Everything looked routine. Then she checked the patient's history. Not the digital summary, but the full archived records from his previous admissions. The system was clunky, requiring 3 different passwords and a manual search through scanned documents from the 1990s. There. A notation from 1997, handwritten by a nurse named E. Thompson, her mother. Patient experienced severe anaphylactic reaction to penicillin-based antibiotics. Alternative protocols required. See attached documentation. Maya's heart stopped. She cross-referenced the current orders. The prescribed antibiotic was in the same drug family, flagged as safe by the new digital system, because the old allergy information had never been properly migrated. She checked the time. The next dose was scheduled for 2 p.m. It was 1:47. Maya ran. The tablet clutched against her chest, her shoes squeaking on the polished floor. 13 minutes. She had 13 minutes to stop a potentially fatal medication error. Room 437's door was closed. She pushed through without knocking. Richard Hartwell looked up from his phone, his face darkening immediately. I thought I made it clear. Where's Dr. Jensen? Maya scanned the room. The attending physician wasn't there. Only a nurse Maya didn't recognize. Someone from the float pool was preparing the medication cart. He stepped out, the float nurse said. I'm just about to administer the 2 p.m. medications. Stop. Maya's voice cut through the room. Do not give that antibiotic. The nurse froze, syringe in hand. Excuse me? The patient has a documented penicillin allergy. It's in his archived records from 1997. That medication will trigger anaphylaxis. Richard stepped between Maya and the bed. You need to leave now. You've been removed from my father's care. Mr. Hartwell, your father's life is in danger. Maya held up the tablet, showing the scanned record. This allergy wasn't transferred to the digital system. If she administers that dose, she's lying. Richard turned to the float nurse. She's been insubordinate all morning. Administration already knows. Just do your job. The float nurse looked between them, uncertain. Dr. Jensen approved this medication personally. The system shows no allergies. The system is incomplete. Maya stepped closer, her voice urgent but controlled. I'm the director of nursing. I'm telling you to hold that medication until we can verify you're nothing but a troublemaker trying to cover her ass. Richard pulled out his phone again. Security? Yes, room 437. I need someone removed immediately. Maya's pulse hammered. The float nurse still held the syringe, paralyzed by the conflict. William Hartwell lay in the bed, watching the scene unfold with growing confusion. Please, Maya said to the nurse, just wait 5 minutes. Let me find Dr. Jensen. Let me show him the records. Don't listen to her, Richard said. My father needs his medication on schedule. He's already been through enough today without this drama. The float nurse looked at the clock. 1:58 p.m. She looked at the medication order on her screen. She looked at Maya. I have to follow the physician's orders, she said quietly. Unless Dr. Jensen countermands them directly. Maya's stomach dropped. She turned and ran from the room, tablet in hand, searching for Dr. Jensen. The hallway blurred. Doors flew past. She grabbed another nurse by the arm. "Where's Jensen?" "Emergency consult in the ICU. He'll be at least 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Too long." Maya spun back toward room 437, already knowing she was too late. Richard had called security. They would escort her out before she could reach the room again. The float nurse would follow protocol, administering the medication exactly as ordered, and William Hartwell would crash. Maya reached the doorway just as two security guards rounded the corner. She recognized one, Carlos Martinez, whose wife she'd trained 5 years ago. "Dr. Thompson," Carlos said, his voice apologetic, "we need you to come with us." "Carlos, please. There's a medication error about to happen. The patient has an allergy that's not in the system. I'm sorry. We have orders from HR." Through the door's window, Maya saw the float nurse approaching William Hartwell's IV line with the syringe. The clear liquid caught the fluorescent light. Richard stood beside her, arms crossed, satisfied. "No." Maya tried to push past Carlos. "You don't understand." Carlos caught her arm gently but firmly. "Don't make this harder." The nurse inserted the syringe into the IV port. Maya watched the plunger descend. The medication flowed into William Hartwell's vein, invisible and irreversible. "It's done," Carlos said. "Let's go." Maya let him guide her down the hallway. Her legs moved mechanically. The tablet felt like lead in her hands. She thought of her mother's notation, written in careful script. Patient experienced severe anaphylactic reaction. A warning across decades, ignored. They reached the elevator. Carlos pressed the button. The display showed the car ascending from the first floor, 3, 4, 5. Behind them, an alarm began to shriek, then another. Carlos's radio crackled. "Code blue! Room 437, code blue, room 437. Maya's blood turned to ice. Carlos looked at her, his expression shifting from duty to horror. "Oh God," he whispered. The elevator doors opened. Inside stood Dr. Jensen, reviewing notes on his tablet. He looked up at the alarms, confused. "What's happening?" "Room 437, Maya said. Her voice came from somewhere distant. "William Hartwell. Anaphylactic shock. Penicillin allergy from 1997. Not in the current system. I tried to warn them." Dr. Jensen's face went white. He bolted from the elevator, running toward the room. Carlos released Maya's arm, frozen between his orders and the emergency unfolding. Maya stood in the hallway, listening to the alarms scream, listening to voices shouting for epinephrine, for the crash cart, for help. She'd been right. She'd known. She'd tried to stop it, and they'd locked her out anyway. Through the chaos, one sound cut through everything else. Richard Hartwell, screaming his father's name. The alarms wouldn't stop. Maya stood frozen in the hallway, Carlos beside her, both of them useless. Through the small window in the door, she could see figures moving frantically. The crash cart blocked most of her view. Dr. Jensen's voice carried over the chaos. "Push 1 milligram epinephrine. Get me an airway kit, now." Carlos shifted uncomfortably. "Should I—" "They won't let me in," Maya said quietly. "Your orders were to remove me. But you knew. You tried to warn them." "Doesn't matter now," her phone buzzed. A text from Jasmine. "Mom, got my Johns Hopkins interview. Can you believe it?" Maya stared at the message. Her daughter's joy, bright and unaware. In the background, medical staff shouted measurements and medications. Someone called for the attending physician to make a decision about intubation. This was the world Jasmine wanted to enter. A world where being right didn't matter if you were the wrong color. Where excellence was conditional on comfort. Where your credentials meant nothing when someone decided you didn't belong. Maya's finger hovered over the keyboard. What could she say? "Congratulations, baby, but this career will break your heart." "Congratulations, but you'll spend more time proving your right to be in the room than actually practicing medicine?" She pocketed the phone without responding. "Dr. Thompson." Emma appeared, breathless. "They're asking for you. Dr. Jensen said to find you immediately." I thought I was removed from the case. Dr. Jensen overrode it. "He needs you now." Carlos looked at Maya. "Go." Maya walked toward room 437, each step heavy. She'd been vindicated, yes, but William Hartwell was dying, and vindication was a cold, bitter thing. The door opened. The smell of antiseptic and panic hit her. Dr. Jensen looked up, his face sheened with sweat. "The epinephrine bought us time, but his airway is closing. I need your help." Behind him, Richard Hartwell stood against the wall, his face ash-gray. He didn't speak, didn't object, just watched as Maya stepped forward into the room she'd been banished from 10 minutes ago. Maya moved with practiced precision. Years of training overrode emotion. She assessed the situation in seconds. William Hartwell's lips were blue, his breathing labored and wheezing. Hives bloomed across his exposed skin. "Classic anaphylaxis progressing fast. Vitals?" she asked. The float nurse, her hands shaking now, read from the monitor. "BP 80/50 and dropping. Heart rate 1 to 40. O2 sat at 84%. Second dose of epinephrine," Maya said. 0.3 milligrams im. And start a crystalloid bolus wide open. We need to support his blood pressure." Dr. Jensen nodded, relief flooding his face. "Respiratory?" Maya listened to William's breathing. The wheeze was worsening, his chest straining with each breath. "Airway is compromising. We need to intubate before it closes completely." "I'll prep the kit," Emma said, already moving. Maya glanced at the monitor showing William's medication history. She pulled up the archived records on her tablet, scrolling through her mother's notes from 1997. The reaction back then responded to high-dose steroids along with epinephrine. "We should add methylprednisolone, 125 milligrams IV push." Dr. Jensen looked at the tablet, reading quickly. "Your mother documented this?" "She documented everything." Maya's voice was steady. "She knew that institutional memory could save lives. She just didn't know the institution would lose the memory." Richard Hartwell finally spoke, his voice broken. "Is he going to die?" Maya met his eyes. In them she saw terror replacing arrogance. She saw a son watching his father struggle for breath. She saw for the first time his humanity. "Not if we can help it," she said. "But you need to step back and let us work." Richard nodded and pressed himself against the wall, smaller now. The second epinephrine dose went in. Maya watched the monitor, counting heartbeats. William's oxygen saturation ticked up, 85, 86, 87. Not enough, but moving in the right direction. "Intubation kit ready," Emma said. Maya positioned herself at the head of the bed. Dr. Jensen handed her the laryngoscope. She'd done this hundreds of times, but her hands remembered her mother's hands teaching her during nursing school, guiding her through the first time she'd held this instrument. "Steady pressure," Evelyn had said. "You're saving a life. Trust yourself." Maya inserted the laryngoscope, visualizing the airway. William's throat was swollen, the opening narrowed to a dangerous degree. She had one chance to get the tube in before the swelling closed off access completely. "Tube," she said. Emma placed it in her hand. Maya advanced it carefully, feeling the resistance, adjusting the angle. There she felt it pass through into the trachea. "We're in," she said. "Inflate the cuff." Dr. Jensen secured the tube and connected the ventilator. The machine began breathing for William, regulated and steady. The oxygen saturation climbed. 88, 90, 92. The alarms quieted one by one as the numbers stabilized. Maya stepped back, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. "Monitor him closely. The reaction could have a secondary phase in 4 to 6 hours. He needs continuous observation and steroid coverage." Dr. Jensen nodded. "I'll write the orders. And Dr. Thompson," he paused. "I should have listened to you." "I'm sorry." The room settled into controlled tension. William Hartwell's vitals held steady, the ventilator breathing for him in mechanical rhythm. Maya made notes on her tablet, documenting every intervention. The legal implications would come later. For now, she focused on the medicine. Richard hadn't moved from his position against the wall. His designer suit was rumpled now, his perfectly styled hair disheveled. He watched his father's chest rise and fall with the ventilator, his face a mask of shock. Dr. Jensen finished entering orders and approached Richard. "Mr. Hartwell, your father is stable." We caught the reaction in time. "But I need you to understand what happened here." Richard's eyes didn't leave his father. "I almost killed him." "No," Dr. Jensen said. "The system failed him. An allergy from 1997 was documented, but never transferred to our current records. Dr. Thompson caught it. Richard's voice cracked. "After I had her thrown out." Maya looked up from her tablet. "Mr. Hartwell, your father needs family right now, not guilt. You can sit with him." Richard finally turned to face her. His eyes were red, his expression stripped of all arrogance. "I called you—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "I know what you called me." Maya's voice was quiet but firm. "But your father didn't. When I reviewed his old records, I found something else." She pulled up a scanned document on her tablet. A thank you letter he wrote in 1997 to a nurse named Evelyn Thompson, my mother. She was the one who discovered his penicillin allergy during a previous hospitalization. She probably saved his life then too. Richard stared at the letter. His father's handwriting, younger and stronger. To Nurse Thompson, "Your vigilance and compassion exemplify everything this hospital should be. You saved my life and I will not forget." He remembered her, Maya continued. "When you were ordering me around, he was trying to speak. I saw it in his face. Recognition." Dr. Jensen glanced at the letter. "The system migration happened in 2015. Thousands of old paper records were digitized, but allergy information was supposed to be manually verified. Someone missed this one." "How many others were missed?" Maya asked. The question hung in the air. Dr. Jensen's face paled as the implications sank in. The door opened. Susan Chen from HR entered, followed by Dr. Patricia Walsh, the hospital's chief medical officer. Their expressions were grave. "Dr. Thompson," Dr. Walsh said. "We need to talk about what happened here." Maya straightened. "Yes, we do." "You saved a patient's life after being ordered to leave his care," Dr. Walsh continued. "You identified a critical flaw in our medical records system, and according to security footage and witness statements, you were subjected to racial discrimination that directly interfered with patient care." Richard flinched. Dr. Walsh turned to him. "Mr. Hartwell, you will need to speak with our legal team. Your actions today created a dangerous situation that could have resulted in your father's death." "I understand," Richard said quietly. Dr. Walsh looked back at Maya. "Dr. Thompson, I'm formally apologizing on behalf of Riverside Memorial. You were right. You tried to prevent this, and we failed you." She paused. "But more importantly, we failed your mother. Evelyn Thompson's documentation was impeccable. If we'd honored her work, if we'd properly migrated these records, none of this would have happened." Maya felt something shift in her chest. Her mother's pin pressed against her skin, warm and solid. "This isn't just about one patient," Maya said. "How many other critical allergies were lost in the migration? How many patients are at risk right now because we relied on a flawed system?" Dr. Walsh nodded slowly. "That's exactly what we need to find out. And I'm asking you to lead the audit. Not as a diversity initiative, not as a gesture. As the director of nursing who just proved that institutional knowledge and human vigilance matter more than any digital system." Richard stepped forward. "Dr. Thompson," his voice was hoarse, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm sorry. I saw your skin before I saw you. I heard your title and still didn't believe you because—" He stopped, swallowing hard. "Because I didn't want to." "I'm sorry." Maya looked at him. The apology didn't erase the humiliation. It didn't undo the years of similar moments, the accumulated weight of being doubted. But it was something. A crack in the armor of willful ignorance. "Your father is going to recover," she said. "When he wakes up, tell him Evelyn Thompson's daughter was here. Tell him we keep our promises." 3 weeks later, Maya stood in the hospital's conference room surrounded by stacks of archived records. The audit had uncovered 47 critical allergies that were lost in the 2015 system migration. 47 patients who could have died from preventable reactions. The hospital board sat before her, silent and attentive. Richard Hartwell was there too, not as his father's representative, but as a volunteer. He'd spent the past weeks helping Maya's team cross-reference old paper files with digital records, doing the tedious work of verification. "We've contacted all 47 patients," Maya said. "Their records have been updated. But this is bigger than allergies. We found missing surgical histories, unreported complications, lost treatment notes, decades of institutional knowledge, erased by inadequate migration protocols." Dr. Walsh spoke up. "What do you recommend?" Maya pulled up a presentation. First, a complete audit of all patient records from before 2015. Second, a new position, Director of Medical Records Integration. Someone whose sole job is maintaining institutional memory. Third, mandatory bias training that's not performative. Real scenarios, real consequences. She paused, looking at the board members. "And fourth, a memorial. My mother and nurses like her built the foundation this hospital stands on. Their knowledge saved lives. We need to honor that, not erase it." The board chairman nodded slowly. "The budget for all of this?" "Whatever it costs," Maya said. "Because the alternative costs lives." The vote was unanimous. After the meeting, Richard approached her. He'd lost weight, the arrogance replaced by something quieter. "My father woke up 2 days ago. He asked for you. How is he?" "Grateful. Ashamed of me. Angry at himself for not speaking up sooner." Richard's hands twisted together. "He wants to fund the memorial, in your mother's name and the names of all the nurses whose records we lost." Maya touched her mother's pin. "That would be appropriate. Dr. Thompson, Maya, I know I can't undo what I did, but I've been attending the bias training sessions. All of them. I'm trying to understand how I became someone who could treat another person that way." Maya studied him. The transformation seemed genuine, but she'd learned that change was a process, not a moment. "Keep showing up," she said. "That's how it works. You show up, you do better, you don't expect applause." Richard nodded. "Your mother, did she ever talk about the patients who treated her badly?" "Every night," Maya said. "And every morning she went back." She said giving up meant letting hate win. So she chose excellence over anger, competence over bitterness. That was her resistance. It's a hard way to live. It's the only way we get to live. Maya picked up her tablet. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have patients to see." She walked out of the conference room into the bright hospital corridor. Her royal blue scrubs caught the afternoon light. Somewhere on this floor, a young nurse of color was starting her shift, carrying her own dreams and doubts. Maya made a note to find her later, to tell her, "You belong here. Your voice matters. Don't let anyone make you invisible." That evening, Maya stood in her office, the city lights beginning to glow beyond her window. The silver caduceus pin lay on her desk. She'd removed it to polish the tarnished metal, restoring some of its original shine. Her phone buzzed. Jasmine's name appeared on the screen. "Mom, I've been trying to reach you all day. How did you get my messages?" Maya smiled. "Sorry, baby. Long day, what's up?" "Johns Hopkins accepted me. Full acceptance. I'm going to be a doctor, Mom." Maya's throat tightened. She looked at her mother's pin, catching the lamplight. 3 generations now. 3 generations of black women in medicine, each one fighting to prove what should never need proving. "I'm so proud of you," Maya said. "Grandma would be too. I want to be like both of you, strong, unbreakable." Maya picked up the pin, feeling its weight in her palm. "Baby, we're not unbreakable. We break all the time, but we choose to keep going anyway. That's different. Did something happen today?" Maya thought about Richard Hartwell's apology. the board's unanimous vote, the 47 lives saved by her mother's careful documentation. She thought about the memorial that would carry Evelyn Thompson's name into the future. Something good, Maya said. Something that mattered. After they hung up, Maya pinned the caduceus back onto her scrubs for tomorrow's shift. She thought about the young nurse she'd seen in the hallway, the one she'd promised herself to mentor. Excellence wasn't enough on its own. Credentials weren't enough. Competence wasn't enough. But excellence plus voice, refusing to be silent, refusing to be invisible, refusing to accept that prejudice was just the cost of peace, that could change things. Her mother had taught her to be excellent. Life had taught her to speak up. And now she would teach the next generation to do both. The hospital would open its doors tomorrow morning. Patients would arrive carrying trust and fear. Nurses would arrive carrying knowledge and compassion. And somewhere in those hallways, someone would make a snap judgment based on skin color instead of credentials. But now there would be consequences. Now there would be accountability. Now there would be a system that valued institutional memory over institutional comfort. Maya turned off her office light and walked toward the elevator. Her royal blue scrubs were crisp and clean, ready for another day. The pin rested over her heart, a promise kept across decades. "You were right, Mama," she whispered to the empty hallway. "Excellence does speak louder than ignorance, but only when we refuse to let ignorance have the final word." The elevator doors opened. Maya stepped inside, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring, because she was Dr. Maya Thompson, Director of Nursing, daughter of Evelyn Thompson, and she would never be invisible again.